It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, today I want to talk about an award that Konica Minolta's All Covered won. The award was given to them by CRN, the channel company, and this award was for the 150 Fastest Growth Award. They were number 112 with a 34% growth. Boy, when you read that, you get excited for All Covered. Boy, they grew 34%. Of course, I don't like when people use percentages if you don't know what the starting number was, and none of us do because Konica Minolta never shares their All Covered numbers. The good news is they had to share their numbers with CRN. At first, I thought the reason they didn't share their numbers with the dealers or the stockholders of Konica Minolta was because it was too convoluted. Maybe their ERP system was hobbled up and they couldn't get the numbers distracted. Who knows? But obviously, if they're sharing the numbers with CRN, I asked Konica Minolta to share All Covered's numbers with the dealer community as well as their shareholders. Because it would really be nice to know what's happened to All Covered since 2011, the day you bought them, until December 2021 when you won this award. What's really happened? Did you grow 34% because the number went completely to hell up until 2019? And then from 2019 through 2020 and through 2021, you were able to have a 34% growth because your number was so damn low to begin with? I'm just asking the question because I don't know how you had a 34% growth when in your own integrated report, you said you were going to grow IT services by 8%. So ladies and gentlemen, I put together some slides. I want to talk through this with you. I want Konica Minolta to kind of answer some of these questions. And I don't want people to think I'm picking on Konica Minolta. Konica Minolta is the one that ran around the whole world. They have more press releases written about them than any other OEM in the world. And people just look at this stuff, these nonsensical press releases, and they just base decisions on them. And you got dealers out there that are questioning whether they should be with All Covered for a master service provider program. Well, if they don't really understand what All Covered's doing as a business inside of Konica Minolta, how in the world do they want to partner with them? I'm just asking the questions because none of the analysts in our market will ask them. So without any further ado, let's jump on the Sharp Interactive board. But, I do want to say this. The CRN organization that gives these awards out, they're a great organization. The channel company, I've been to their meetings in the past, and CTOs and executives in the world, they go to CRN, the channel company, for information around IT services, around software. It's not like those crazy BLI awards, okay? End users could care less about the most consistent color copier line of the year, who's got the best looking A3 or A4. They really don't care about that. But they do care about software. They do care about cloud services. They do care about IT services. They're paying attention to that because it's relevant. So without any further ado, let's jump on the Sharp Interactive board. There's the award. I'm sure you've seen this copied and pasted in the industry's analysts and the blogs out there. They got it back in December, and it was for the Fastest Growth 150. They were number 112 with a 34% growth. Ladies and gentlemen, the CRN asked questions. I went to some of the applications that I could find online. This particular application was for the 2021 MSP 500 application. But the Fastest Growth 150 has an application as well. I couldn't find that application. If anybody has one, just why don't you put it in the comments so everybody could see the application. Because I think it's important to know the questions that Konica and All Covered had to answer to win this award. And then we could take those answers and kind of look at those and say, I got some more questions. You know what I'm saying? Because I think I have some more questions based on some of these questions that they're asking for Konica to win the award. So the first one, this was number 6, and there's all kinds of questions on here. I just wanted to pick out the ones that I think are important for us to know. What customer size are you selling to? 1 to 99, and we have all seen that question before. We could guess that Konica Minolta is probably in that 1 to 99 employees. They have some larger accounts as well, but what's their sweet spot? Have they defined a customer? Do they sell everybody? Will they sell the same customer in the small category as the enterprise category? Who knows? What range did your company's total revenue fall in? Are they $1 million company? Are they $1 billion company? Are they a $500 million company? Wouldn't it be nice if we actually all knew that? Because nobody knows that. I mean, we don't. We just think of them as part of Konica Minolta. Konica Minolta is this multi-billion-dollar company. All Covered must be knocking it out of the park. What part of the knocking out of the park represents All Covered? So, ladies and gentlemen, CRN, by the way, they define a managed service provider as a company whose 50% of their revenue is coming from services, okay? I will tell you this, as IT services goes more and more into the cloud, the hardware portion of that deliverable is continuing to drop, and the services are growing. It's not going to be long before we're seeing 80% of the revenue coming from services and only 20% of the revenue coming from hardware. That's a reality. And you can see any real IT services company that's out there delivering really robust IT services solutions is starting to realize that themselves. Hardware is quickly not becoming as important as it once used to be. So let's go to this next slide. Here's some more questions. What percentage of your company total revenue was derived from managed services? Reoccurring revenue source. What part of it is the reoccurring? They would have had to answer that question. Wouldn't it be nice if we all knew the answer? How much do you expect your managed service business to grow or decrease in 2021? This is a fantastic question. In the integrated report that Konica Minolta published in 2021, when they went back and revised their projections, they said the IT services business was only going to grow 8%. And that was from 2020 to 2022, but yet they just won an award for growing at 34%. Isn't that kind of strange to me? Were they way off in their projections? I mean, you would hope they'd be way off, but I question whether they were way off or not. What percentage of your company's 2020 total revenue was security-based? Wouldn't it be nice to know? They ran around, they bought up security companies. Do you remember that? They bought the penetration testing company. Konica Minolta is really good about those press releases. Folks, our industry, these nonsensical press releases just make me laugh. You got people that are so good about putting out a press release, but they're not really good about sharing what's going on after the press release. I mean, it's kind of like the grocery store that opens up, has this fantastic grand opening, and you read about it in the paper, and then you drive there a week later and the place is closed. Folks, we need to go past the nonsensical press release. And when you see these nonsensical press releases out there, and there's quite a few of them lately, let's start analyzing what's the substance behind the damn press release. How many devices does your company manage? Wouldn't that be nice to know? All covered. How many endpoints do you have out in the marketplace? They had to tell CRN. Can they not tell the dealers? Can they tell those dealers that are looking at all covered to maybe be a master service provider? Folks, I'm just telling you right now, we've got to do more due diligence because I'm going to share some more information with you. It's a little bit scary. So let's just talk about this. First thing I want to do is get my Sharp Interactive board working here. I got to circle the number. I'm not making this up. This is from the integrated report that they put out there in 2021. IT services is going to grow 8%. They just got an award for 34% growth. And that growth was based on 2019 and 2020, and then in 2021, they took the average of those 2 years, and what did you grow by? That's how this award came to be, okay? So if they're saying it's 8% from 2020 to 2022, how do you get the 34 from 29? I'm confused. Somebody please help me answer that question, okay? And folks, this is in the digital workplace business unit is where IT services sits. This digital workplace unit is one of the entities that Konica Minolta has. They have the industrial entity, right? And they have this business solution workplace. That's where the MFPs live. That's where the IT services lives. And that's all over the world, okay, that group. All covers just the IT services for the United States part of the world. In Europe, they bought some IT services company. In Canada, they bought an IT services company. Of course, Canada and the U.S., probably all the same thing, right? Anyway, folks, 8%, nowhere near 34. What's the difference in the math? Somebody please explain. Let's go to the next one. So here's the actual ranking. So I pulled this right off the awards website, 34%. Let's go back in time a little bit because this is kind of interesting, and I got some questions for Konica. Back in 2011, Konica said they bought All Covered. It had 250 engineers. No one knew what the revenue was for All Covered, so I did some math based on this 250 engineers and some other employees, and I came up with a company that was worth $69 to $100 million, and I based that at about $275,000 per employee. Okay? That's kind of on the low side. There's IT services companies up there in the 300, 350. But I gave them a break, 275. I'm thinking they're a $100 million company. Okay? If I'm wrong, please put in the comments the real number. But here's something really interesting. In July of 2012, they were at a convention, All Covered executives. They were being interviewed, and they said that they were going to build a $1 billion managed services business. And they were going to go out there and acquire companies, grow by acquisition, which is scary in its own right. And they were going to build it to $1 billion. Okay, and at that interview, if you will, they said they had 700 employees. Back in 2011, they had 250 engineers. What do they have, another 50 employees? What are they, 300 employees? They went from 300 employees to 700 employees. So I'm guessing if they had the right amount of revenue, that would put them about a $200 million company. Or do they just pick up like 250 or 300 employees because the day Konica bought them, they said, hey, we're going to give you 2 employees in every one of our direct operations. I'm just asking the question because those would be employees that weren't driving any revenue to the bottom line if you just added them into the portfolio. And then who was paying for those employees? Was All Covered paying for those employees, or was Konica Minolta print business paying for those employees? You see why it's so important to make sure you understand the facts before you read these press releases? Because you could have dealers thinking, oh man, they're killing it. They've doubled the size of their business in just 18 or 19 months. This is unbelievable. This is fantastic. We ought to go out and start buying up some IT services companies. But you don't know any of the real details. December 2021, when you won the award, Konica, how many employees do you have dedicated to All Covered IT services? Are they all just lumped together now with the MFP people? Do you consider MFPs IT? Are you counting the whole thing, the whole ballywhack? Folks, why don't we get the answers? Let's go to the next slide. Go on their website. They say they have 3,000 companies rely on All Covered. What's the average reoccurring services revenue for those 3,000 customers? Is it $3,000 a month? If it's $3,000 a month, that'd be $9 million a month. $9 million a month times a year would be $108 million. If you double that, because 50% of their revenue is coming from services and 50% of their revenue is coming from hardware, what would they be? A $216 million IT services company? I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice if we do? Wouldn't it be nice if they gave the answers to the community that they gave to CRN magazine? Just asking the question. Ladies and gentlemen, here's where it gets interesting. In 2012, they said they wanted to be $1 billion business. Were they talking about they wanted Konica Minolta in the United States to be $1 billion business, and some of that business would be IT services and some of that would be print and toner? Because that's about what they are today. Let me show you. So in the integrated report that they published in 2021, they adjusted the forecast for the business solutions group, right? This business, digital workplace business where all the MFPs live. Keep in mind, this is a worldwide number. And they lowered that number to 470 billion yen. Okay? So keep in mind, all over the world. Let's focus on what part of that is in the United States. What part of that 470 billion is going to come from the United States where All Covered lives? Well, if you go over here, they tell you 26% of their revenue comes from the U.S. market. I'm assuming they also mean Canada, South and Central America. They don't say that there, but I'm kind of guessing that. If I'm wrong, they can put it in the comments. But 26.1% of 470 billion yen is 122 billion yen. Translate that into dollars, that's $1,068 million. So think about this. Konica Minolta in the U.S. market is $1,068 million. That's not much bigger than a couple of these mega dealers getting together. Okay? And that's everything, folks. That's not just IT services. That's 1.6 billion total revenue. That's all the toner they sell in the United States, okay? All the stuff inside that digital workplace business. IT services is just a component of that. How much of that 1,068 million is IT? 5%, 10%, 1%, 2%? Wouldn't it be nice if we actually knew? Wouldn't it be nice if we knew what that number started out with back in 2011 and where they've grown that business over the last 10 years? Or do you not even care? Do you just think if you win 34% growth, you must be doing everything perfect? Is the only reason they grew 34% because since 2011 that number stayed flat and then it just fell into the floor? And then they were able to bring it back up? Wouldn't we all want to know why it fell into the floor? Wouldn't we all want to know why it remained flat? Would we want to know what the operating profit was just for the IT services company? Is it really sustainable? Because it's not that big. Folks, if the total revenue for the digital workplace is only $1,068 million for the United States, IT services for All Covered is a small part of that. So can they spin that off? Seems to me they probably could pretty easily. So when you see the awards, you better question, you better ask some due diligence. Let's go to this next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the reality, and I just want to close with this slide. This is Konica Minolta. They always talk about themselves, the about section. When they buy somebody, I always see these about sections out there. Back in 2011, it was, like 3 sentences. Today, the about at Konica is like, 400 words. They keep growing. But listen to what they say about themselves in their integrated report, okay? When they describe their company, and this integrated report, by the way, is something they give to their investors, to their shareholders. This is how they describe the digital workplace business where the IT services company lives. Development, manufacture, and sale of MFPs and related consumables. MFPs, print equipment, copy machines, and toner. That's top of the list. Provisions of related services and solutions. Provisions of IT solutions, services is last. When you go to their About Today, you know, they start out kind of nice. They talk about the intelligent connected workplace, seems kind of fancy talk, IT services, CRNs, MSPs, 500 lists. So they were on that 9 times. They provided that information. Boy, could you imagine if you could go back to Konica Minolta and say, could you give us all 9 of those applications so we could see how you've grown over the years? Wouldn't that be fantastic to know those numbers? You think a publicly traded company would have to share that kind of stuff if the stockholders asked for that. But then, you know, they get down here and they should have just stopped after they started talking about the IT. And then they start talking about all their BLI awards and the most consistent color, blah, 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 nobody cares about. But the bottom line is, does the world really see Konica Minolta as an IT services company? Do they? Does that CRN 150 list make Konica Minolta an IT services company? Does it make All Covered an IT services company? What's really in the report? Where do the numbers really come from? How did they get 34% growth? Folks, we got to do due diligence because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.